Oh, come on. Stupid phone. All right. Let's see. This is the brainless experience now. Let's see what we got here. Hopefully we can figure this out so that Jay and I can do this. He's a lot more tech savvy than the brainless one, I'll tell you that much. What's up, Jessica? Still trying to figure this out, so looking forward to doing this. This is a whole new experience for me. Actually, no, I can't really say that. We've actually done one experience where we actually did it with Jeff and Jesse, and that actually turned out very well. But again, Jay is he's the guy for that. Oh boy. And I just got X-Pac Omega at the same time. That is fan-freaking-tastic. Trying to get Jay on this thing. I kind of wanted, I wanted to give my 2 cents about that. Yeah, I know, Jessica. It's funny, too, because, I tried on my computer, and I even had my fiance come in and, check it out and everything, and she was like, oh, well, I can't figure this out either. So Jay was like, yeah, just try it on your phone, see if that actually works. So I'm hoping that this will work. Hopefully. I don't even see Jay on this thing, even if he's trying to get in or not. So but yeah, I kind of want to give my 2 cents about what happened on, WWE Backlash, WrestleMania, whatever the hell it's called. The whole zombie thing was a very interesting tidbit of it. The match, the card itself was actually fantastic. I thought they did a really good job booking the card. All right, I think it's adding. It's adding. Oh, come on. Just work. Just once. Brainless one doesn't ask for a lot. Anything, Jay? Is anything popped up or anything? It just says adding. All right. We're still trying to figure this out. I can't believe this is 2021 and we still haven't figured out technology the way we should. I don't know why that's being so weird. Oh, shit.
There we go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's up, Jay?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
So I think we should get the introduction in there. Or do you got some stuff you need to do first, or what?
No, I think I'm ready to roll here.
Okay.
Apparently, the thing that I had the problem with was I had the screen rotated the wrong way. That's why it was being silly. So.
Well, I'm gonna blame mine on operator error.
Right. So. Anyway, I'm gonna attempt to share this mofo out to the folks.
Fantastic.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right, let's try it this way.
Anyway, yeah, we're trying to use the wonders of technology. I not unfortunately, but I had a lot going on today where I just couldn't do the stream at the normal time, and I drove around all Kingdom Come today, and I was like, "Oh, I can't drive anymore. I just need to be home." And Brainless one had things where he had to stay home, so it's like, all right, well, let's see if technology could fix this for us.
Oh, and I'm hoping that it did too.
Yeah.
I had to ditch the phones because the phone wouldn't let me, for whatever reason, wouldn't let me rotate it to the side so I could actually have it and have the headphones in and everything.
Yeah. It is what it is. All right. So
the president once said, "It is fine. It is fine, Cousin Jay."
Right. Not too bad though.
No.
More options. Let's share to a page. All right. Boom. Sweet. All right. So just shared the page out, and hopefully we'll get folks tuning in. Anyway, even though I prefer not to show this thing, and it might be backwards, the whiteboard of wondertude, I do love number 5, I think, the most. Yeah! I know it's backwards, but so be it.
Oh, that is tremendous, though.
But, yeah, man, after Backlash, it was like you said, I thought the card in general was actually like a freaking solid show, but zombies.
Yeah.
Zombies.
I don't even have words for that, Jay. I really don't.
And I understand, hey, you're trying to cross-promote, you're trying to get some money, but, like, when they were, like, when you heard about behind the scenes with WWE, them complaining about, like, the blood and guts match from AEW, sending back professional wrestling 30 years, what the hell do you think zombies do?
It's like the old saying that they have, Jay, people in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks. And I think this was prime definition of it, because, yes, they were very vocal about how the blood and guts match went for AEW, all the people in WWE, and then they give you this freaking abomination. And and somebody, the goat of goats, who's goated more than goats have ever goated in the history of goatdom, Chris Jericho came out and said, zombies. Oh, that just set back wrestling 30 years. So the fact that he kind of played on with it just made it that much better.
By the way, I just pinned Don't Eat Braun Snow's comment. I think you'll really appreciate his comment.
I saw it when it first popped in too, so don't worry. I saw plenty of it.
So tonight, so earlier, our good friend Gags the Clown is a big fan of stout, so I had a Guinness that I was drinking, but I'm finished with the Guinness. So right now I'm riding the Golden Wave.
There you go.
So yeah, man, zombies. Like, as much as I thought that, like, the Black Scorpion could never be topped as far as one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in professional wrestling, WWE just, raises the bar again. Yeah.
That's bar. I'm sorry.
I should be completing this right here.
Yeah. I mean, if I had the thing set up perfectly, I would have had the bar. Actually, you know what? Let me do it real quick. Don't forget.
I love that you have the same shirt on as I do. Look at that. The bar.
They didn't just set the bar; they are the bar. Yeah, that was totally not planned either. We were both wearing the exact same shirts.
Well, I think after what we saw last week, I mean, I was pretty sure. I was like, going, Brainless One's gonna wear. That's such good shit, and I'm like, yeah, it really. I'm sure that's what Vince McMahon was saying when he laughed to the bank about this whole thing, and it's like Batista was probably like, going, I'm not going back there for this crap. Send in the zombies. I'm too big of a deal. By the way, did you see that Batista just kind of said after Guardians 3, I think he's done. And he just said, hey, when Guardians 3 comes out, I'm going to be like 54 years old. And the thing with Drax Destroyer is he doesn't wear shirts. It's getting harder and harder and harder for me to make that body look the way it's supposed to.
Right.
So he's done after Guardians 3.
Oh, good for him, man. I mean, he had a hell of a run. I mean,
and he'll be in other movies, but it's just like, man, he's part of the biggest franchise in basically all of movie history.
It's hard to argue with. The only one I could see even having any kind of a argument with him would be Star Wars. And that's
Well,
about
and even with that, I mean, there are, 20 Marvel movies, 22 Marvel movies, and there's going to be even more of them coming out. I mean, they just listed off basically the next, 5 years worth of them coming up. Apparently, they've come up with who they want to have that be the next big bad guy, the next Thanos for it. But, Batista said he's done after Guardians 3, allegedly. I mean, I'm sure a whole bunch of money might change his idea of all of that, but money could not change his idea of showing up with zombies.
No, I don't. I really think there's a price for me to even have gotten involved, unless it was the ECW zombie from like 15 years ago. The guy first, he wrestled on the first episode of ECWWE or whatever the hell it was called, and he went up against the Sandman, got his ass kicked. And it's one of my all-time favorite WWE ECW matches, because like the Sandman just like he cracked him with the kendo stick and just started wailing on him, and you see all the smoke just come like flying off the dude. Like, damn, this dude really went into character on this. And after that, it's been downhill. It's like that match 15 years ago was the jumping of the shark, so to speak, for zombies in WWE.
Well, you know what? Sadly, the dude who played the zombie passed away a couple of years ago. But speaking of the WWE version of ECW, like some of my favorite matches from that, around the 2008, 2009 era were actually the WWE ECW. Sheamus and Christian had a whole bunch of good matches.
Oh, absolutely.
Gold Dust, I think, and Sheamus had a bunch of good matches. And Big Zeke finished as the ECW champion. I think he won it from Christian on the last night.
He did. He actually he was the last winning ECW champion and ECW, the rebirth of ECW, so to speak.
Overall, back in the day, I did really appreciate. I know it was not the violent version, that Paul Heyman had, from like 1993 to 2001, but like I dug the fact that it was basically a wrestling show. I loved when Tommy Dreamer would be in a hardcore match, and in the middle of the match, the hot dog vendor would come down and he'd beat the crap out of the dude, and then eat a couple of hot dogs in the middle of the match. I'm like, you know what? I'd have a beer with that dude, and I'd have a hot dog with that dude.
See, what I liked about the old school ECW that they had back in the day was that was kind of like what they did. That was almost like what their developmental was that they put on television before NXT became a thing. Because if you think about it, CM Punk got his break there. Elijah Burke went over there and he made a name for himself over in ECW. Kevin Thorne. John Morrison went over there, was a former ECW champion. Sheamus was over there. Jack Swagger was over there. Kofi Kingston got his big break in W. It was really like a really good launching pad for a lot of young talent that was coming up through the ranks in WWE, and it was the perfect way for them to get some television exposure before they went on to go to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown.
Tim chiming in with, even the $1 Million Man wouldn't have a price to appear with zombies. Good statement, but he does have a price to appear with Cameron Grimes, and he did so again this week.
That's what goats do, Jay. Goats do goat things.
I don't know if you saw it, but I think I saw a couple of skits with $1 Million Man and Cameron Grimes, one of which is he outbid Cameron Grimes for a house. And he paid $20 million for the house, and Cameron Grimes like, I can't believe who would spend $20 million on this house. And $1 Million Man did what the $1 Million Man does. And then, Cameron Grimes had a week, or had a match this week on ECW, NXT against Jake Atlas. After Jake Atlas made fun of him as he was entering the arena, but $1 Million Man came out and distracted him during his match, and Jake Atlas got the victory over Cameron Grimes. So, I mean, is DiBiase coming back possibly as like a manager or something like that, or is this just going to be a short little thing where maybe give a little bit of a rub to Cameron Grimes, or just keep on the comedy shtick here?
You know me, I'm the one that's going to say any Ted DiBiase is better than no Ted DiBiase. So the fact that he's on my television on NXT in 2021, I am beyond thrilled for that.
He's a GOAT.
Yeah, he's an absolute GOAT. He's my personal favorite of heels growing up as a child, because the fact, like I said before, and I'll even say it again, he was the guy I hated as a kid because he was just so good. So once I got older, I appreciated more of what Ted DiBiase did.
By the way, speaking of Ted DiBiase and what he did, after WrestleMania Backlash, Rob Van Dam Icons was on the WWE network, and he specifically talked about when he was at the show and ended up getting $100 from the $1 Million Man. And he was like, you know what? You could tell back then, even at that moment, I wasn't a good negotiator. I could have gotten $500. But he was like, well, you know what? If nothing else, he's like, I got a real legit $100 from the dude. So he got $100 for the $1 Million Man to make fun of him and to kiss the $1 Million Man's foot.
$100. You know how much weed he could have gotten back then for that much money?
Well, and like in the Icons, he explains about the weed thing. He's like, yeah, I wasn't a stoner, pothead, or anything like that growing up. And who was it? He mentioned that it was one of the, it was a wrestler, and it was like after a match, and person's like, yeah, come on, man. Like, it was complete peer pressure, but it went from peer pressure to, like, you know, basically the thing that has caused Rob Van Dam to, you know, live on in many ways. It's like, you know, he went from that, and like, even while he was wrestling, I think he might have a business that has to do with cannabis and what have you. But, you know, RVD, man, like he did so many revolutionary things in the ring, but, like, you know, kind of like revolutionized himself outside of the ring, is being this, like, dude progressive for weed, and like, hey, guess what? It does more than just get you high. It actually helps you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Tim chiming in for heels for him in the late 80s, early 90s. Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, and Bret Hart.
Come here for a second.
Yeah.
There was actually, it's funny that you bring up the RVD thing with the weed. Nicole brought something to my attention. I wanted to make sure I got all the right information, because she told me a very interesting story, and I just want to make sure that she, you know,
Here's a story of a lovely lady.
All right. But what was the whole Kurt Angle thing with Rob Van Dam and all them?
So apparently Kurt Angle just did an interview where he was talking about WWE's health screening policies.
Yeah.
That it got into the point where certain celebrities would just pay the fine for the entire year to avoid the drug test. And then he went on to name the two of them, being Rob Van Dam and Randy Orton. So basically they paid $14,000 a year to avoid drug tests.
So basically they found out that they asked WWE at the beginning of the year, hey, how many times are we going to be tested and how much of the fine is going to be? And WWE said that it was going to be $2,000 for every violation, and that we were going to test you 7 times during the year. So RVD and Randy Orton actually paid their fine for the year at the beginning of the year, because they already knew. They're like, all right, we're going to fail, so here you go.
Hey, well, you know, and not just them, but there was a point where R-Truth ended up getting popped with a couple of fines because he was taking what they called spice, which was basically what you call it. I think it was kind of made in a laboratory version of weed.
Yes,
it's not the same exact thing as weed, but like it did the same thing. But R-Truth like got popped a couple times for that. But you know, with everything that's going on with the laws around the country, you know,
So here in Virginia.
yeah, come July 1st.
And it's interesting too, because like I do know about spice. Spice is like a lower end version of marijuana. It doesn't do the exact same thing that marijuana does. And it's funny too, because like we found a store right here in Bad News, Newport News, that sells yes, you're right, I need a thumbs up. That actually sells stuff. It's called Delta 8. And Delta 8 is kind of like a lower version of what marijuana is. Like it doesn't have the same effects on it and everything. You know, by the milligrams and everything, it's good stuff. I've actually taken it, and it helps. You know, it helps me sleep.
It's such good shit.
It is such good shit. You know, they have it in like Rice Krispie treats. They have it in like gummies. They have it in
brownies.
I don't know about brownies.
Cookies.
Yeah, or the cookies, but they have like yeah, they have honey sticks, and it has the stuff in that. So I'm talking about the Delta 8.
Oh.
And then they have like these like gummies, like these little candies that have like the nerds on the top, and those are actually really good. And it's a much lighter dosage, and it doesn't have the exact same effects. It just like it gives you like a calming thing. So if anything, it's more of like something to help if you have like maybe
anxiety, yeah,
or headaches. If you're having problems sleeping, that's what Delta 8 is really good for.
That stuff work on seizures too?
Honey, do you think it works on seizures?
It does lower the seizure threshold, but it's not as potent as the CBD because it doesn't have a lot of CBD in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't mind me. She handed me a piece of chocolate.
Oh, all right. Sweet. I mean, while she's in the room, should we talk about Fandango and Breezango?
She walked away.
Oh, no. I understand. But, all right. So, like, circling back around to Backlash.
Oh, God. All right.
WrestleMania Backlash. All right. So, we did have Damian Priest versus The Miz in a lumberjack match, and we got what we got as far as the lumberjacks were. Again, you know, this is just me thinking of the character of a zombie. A zombie is supposed to be mindless and just kind of move forward until it gets something to bite on, right? But why did it seem like there was an invisible threshold where they couldn't get into the ring until after the match was ended? I know I'm throwing logic onto this like story that defies logic. It's like trying to throw logic onto the Black Scorpion. Like, there's nothing I can do to fix that.
First of all, there's two things I wanted to mention. Number one, somebody without a brain just moving forward. So are you trying to say to me, Jay, that I might actually be a zombie and I'm just, you know, just going forward until I bite something?
Possibly.
Because like you said that, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm about to eat something. But like, I thought the same thing too. Because like, I mean, I have no problem with them like popping out from like behind the barricade and all that stuff. That was an interesting little caveat to it. But it seemed like them not getting it. They're zombies.
It shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's like it's to me. For me, that's like when the guy struggles to climb up the ladder to win it because it's like, oh, there's nobody else in the ring, and I'm gonna.
He is so tired from the rest of the match, as he's like sitting there like eyeballing backwards to see if somebody's coming up to hit him. So
there's a lot of things over the years that it's just like stupid, brainless logic in professional wrestling, and that's one of the we witnessed it on Sunday. So. The only good thing about the zombies was that Scotty 2 Hotty was one of them. That's the only good thing about the zombies.
Right. You know, Jessica, as much as we understand that zombies move slow, but they like then all of a sudden when the match ended, they were able somehow to get beyond the force field threshold of being a lumberjack during the match. But so one thing serious that did happen during this match, Damian Priest did a move. I think it was off the top rope, and like he just either the Miz was in the wrong position or Damian Priest, just didn't have the right positioning with his body. But the Miz allegedly tore his ACL during this match. He finished the match off, even though that spot happened probably, I'd say, a good solid 5 or 10 minutes before the match ended, and you could see Miz kind of shaking his leg and trying to shake it off and get through the match, and he did get through the match. But Miz, ACL injury, I mean, you're on the shelf minimum of 6 months, possibly over a year.
Jay, actually on that, I actually read something, I think it was either last night or this morning. I read that the Miz's injury actually isn't as severe as originally thought. So they're saying that the timetable to return might be sooner than later. I'm hoping he takes maybe a couple, 2-3 months off, just because you don't want to risk injuring it even further, and then you're out for 6 months to a year. That's just one of those things you just got to take time and just get yourself ready and just I don't want to see him rush to return.
I'm just going to point something out. We have 2 Nicholases watching right now. We also you got Wwe Ecw and Wwe Ecw and Wwe Owens.
Oh God.
So there's that. I hope that Miz is all right and that he'll be back sooner rather than later. But Miz, you know what? He is a champion for John Morrison. Because many times he's done interviews since Morrison's come back and just said, you know what, this dude needs a singles push. And he said that Morrison, if he's not in the main event picture within the next year, there's something wrong with WWE, more or less. So, I me. Back before, I've loved Dolph Ziggler for a long time, but Morrison was my dude before, Dolph Ziggler was my dude. I enjoy guys who can go, who have some talent, who have kind of a look to them. And, I think with a dude like John Morrison, he's still having, really good matches. And at this point, the character, they're kind of a comedy duo at this point. So I hope they could launch him into something more than that.
Well, so, I will say this. The one thing I do enjoy about the fact that John Morrison and The Miz are working together is that we know that in real life they are best friends.
Yes.
So the fact that they're getting to work together, I've always said that the dream faction for me would have been the 2 of them, Dolph Ziggler and Zack Ryder, where they're all really good friends in real life, and I think they would have made it work as a faction between the 4 of them. Even adding Cody Rhodes to that would have been a genius move, but obviously, with Matt Cardona in Impact and Cody Rhodes running stuff in AEW, and Ziggler's doing his thing with Bobby Roode on SmackDown, so obviously we're not going to get something like that.
Right. Mike, the last time Morrison was in WWE, he definitely should have been more of a main event picture. I mean, he did. I mean, I talk about this match a decent amount. Miz versus Morrison after Miz won the championship. They did a no-holds-barred match, and it's one of my favorite matches. That I know they were trying to use that match as kind of a way to show that Miz was just not a pretty boy. He could fight in a match where he and his opponent beat the hell out of each other, and Miz still ended up on top. Yeah. I thought that was a fantastic match, and I thought in general Morrison should have gotten more than he did before. He's been an Intercontinental Champion. He's been a Tag Team Champion. I'm going to guess he's been a U.S. Champion at some point. But he's held just about everything. ECW Champion. He's held just about everything outside of the Heavyweight Championship. But, when he was in Impact, when he was in Lucha Underground, he was in the main event, and you didn't feel like he was out of place in the main event. He puts on great matches, and as far as on the mic, that was a criticism of him before, and I think he's actually fine on the mic now, and Miz talks about, like, you know what, the chemistry between he and I is just immediate. You feel it and you see it when we're, in the ring together, on camera together. And so, but Miz kind of said, like, you felt like a little bit of the strains of, like, hey, maybe they might be breaking them up. Miz more or less has said, like, I don't want to break up with Morrison, but if we go on and do singles stuff, that's fine. But I want us to forever be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I'll tell you right now, them breaking up the Miz and Morrison is kind of stupid, because, like, one of the biggest criticisms we've had with WWE over the last year or so was the lack of tag teams that they have in the tag team division.
Or when they broke up the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And it's like
no reason for it.
It was stupid. It was a stupid move. I mean, if they did something like if they added Donovan Dijakovic and Dio Madden to the Hurt Business, all right, now we're talking. But now it's just like, why even be called the Hurt Business when it's just basically Bobby Lashley and MVP, and you don't have like this faction of guys that, you can have one guy as the heavyweight champion and another two guys as the tag team champions. But them, like, the way that they've been just blowing up all these tag teams is just absolutely stupid. Although,
yeah,
I mean, they did on Raw this week. They did start planting the seeds a little bit for what it looks like it's going to be. T-Bar and Mace going up against the Viking Raiders, which I'm 100% on board with watching that match, because that is going to be an absolute slugfest.
I couldn't tell during the Lumberjack match on Monday Night Raw, was Slapjack there?
I don't remember seeing him. All I remember was it was a bunch of dudes and Nikki Cross.
I saw Dominic Dijakovic, a.k.a. whatever his
I saw
name is.
Mason T-Bar. I saw Tozawa dressed up like a ninja.
I saw Mustafa Ali.
But I think that the plan was they were going to move Slapjack to SmackDown, but we just haven't seen him on SmackDown yet.
Maybe you could team up with Aleister Black. That would be fun. Aleister Black, Slapjack, and Zelina Vega.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talking about Aleister Black a little bit later on in the podcast.
Yeah. So Mike Rainey asking specifically about WWE's releases this week. There were two of them. Well, officially one of them. The second one is kind of unofficial, but going to officially happen, I think, June 15th. So the unofficial one that's not, like, he's not released yet, but is Alexander Wolff, who was Insanity and then was part of Imperium for the past couple of years. But Alexander Wolff was told that he was not going to be extended, and his current deal with WWE is up in June 15th. And on NXT TV this week, he had a match. He lost the match, and he got beat up by the other dudes in Imperium. So that was their way of writing him off television. I have a lot of respect for Alexander Wolff. I love Sanity as a faction, and adding him into Imperium, I was like, all right, well, a good way to keep him rolling with something different. For whatever reason, Vince wasn't a big fan of Sanity and didn't want to have them featured so much. But I'm like, all right, well, this keeps Alexander Wolff going with a faction. But they decided they wanted to go in another direction. I'm sad to see him go, but and there are other people that could do what he did.
And on that note too, Alexander Wolff was not the only one on NXT who got released. That I think it was Wednesday. I think it was May. They said, I think it was, or it was Thursday. One of the 2 days. But like Vanessa Bourne was part of those releases. I think it was like Eva Story or whatever the hell her name was. Her name is like Brandy something. Brandy. I can't even think of what her last name is.
But not going to work here anymore.
Right. But Brandy Lorraine, that's it. They had actually just, when they got the Evolve deal, she was one of the first ones that they actually signed from Evolve. And I think she just signed it like October or November, and they just released her. And I'm like, what was the point of that? I'm like, all she did was she showed up on television as just like an extra, kind of like what they did with MJF when he was an extra for Samoa Joe and all the other wrestlers over the years.
Right.
Also, the woman, the last name Devi, the first Indian-born prospect in WWE's developmental, she also got released this week. And a couple of referees, especially Drake Wirtz. He was the guy, I think it was the QANON dude.
Oh, yeah.
They finally released him. So, and I know that was the big issue when they announced those releases the other day was that, all right, well, they got rid of Drake Wirtz. What the fuck's going on with the Velveteen Dream? Well, we come to find out the next day that as FM Marks Hall of Famer El Jefe refers to, the Sextatine Dream also got released. It was either yesterday or the day before.
So the thing with Velveteen Dream, you heard reports out there that he was in the building, in the house at Monday Night Raw last week, and part of it's like going, well, we haven't seen him on TV for a while. Is he getting called up?
Yeah.
It's clear that this meeting was like, yeah, you're gone, dude. And beyond that, like there was a person that had done some behind-the-scenes work who said that Velveteen Dream was the most unprofessional person he had ever worked with in the business. And hopefully this was the wake-up call that, Patrick Clark needed to grow up. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. One thing I'll say about this, and this is just my tinfoil hat theory, I think WWE, when they did their investigation, this is, again, I'm alleging this. This is not, proven in any way. My belief is WWE found stuff, but thought that they might have lawsuits if they revealed that they found out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like going, you know what we'll do? We'll keep him around, but we're just not going to feature him. They brought him back for like a cup of coffee for a few matches. And we'll just make him ice cold. And not only will we make him ice cold, but when he kind of gets close to the end of his contract, we'll just let him go. And we're going to clean our hands of him and not feel like we're going to get a lawsuit from Patrick Clark against us. And we're not going to get a lawsuit from anybody else beyond that. And again, this is just my belief.
I will tell you this much. The one thing I will take away from this is he is lucky that it happened in the middle of a pandemic that all this shit came out. Because if they had live fans at shows and they tried bringing out a Velveteen Dream, there's no way in hell you were going to be able to edit out the audio from those things going after him for the accusations that were levied against him. So, I don't know.
Well, so Tommy's chiming in saying that he liked Velveteen Dream. I did too, but I like the character. I know, like, when he debuted, you were not the biggest fan of him, but after a few months, you were like going, you know what, this dude's kind of good. He's building on me, and it just, it's one of those things where it's like going, can you separate the character from the human? And it seems pretty apparent what he did. And I would have a hard time even watching his best matches, not feeling like I'm like watching the match and I can't even watch it without even my brain going there. Just not the same exact thing, but like if I see Chris Benoit in a match, I'm like,
I can't. It's to a point now, like when I come across old school pay-per-views and I see Chris Benoit, I fast forward or I skip to the next match. I used to watch any Chris Benoit things, and it's funny too because like Bubba Ray Dudley on Twitter this morning was talking about, because I think nobody ever talks about TLC. I think 3, which was the third, and the third edition of the TLC match that they had with Dudley's, Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and then they added Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho to it. And he was like, "Well, what is everybody's thoughts about that match?" And I'm like, "I'm not touching this one." I'm like, I don't even think I watched the third one, nor do I have any intentions on watching the third one now. But I don't know. It's
well, and even Chris Jericho and Benoit had a ladder match at Royal Rumble.
2001.
I want to say it might have been like 2001.
It was 2000.
2002. It was an amazing match. and I watched it a little while after all the stuff went down. I was like going, I'm going to watch this to see how I feel about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was immediate. I'm like, I finished watching the match, and I'm like, I can't ever watch another match from this dude ever again. I can't. And heck, man, I even have a hard time going back to those Royal Rumbles. Even if he isn't the focal point, it's like, with Velveteen Dream, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's like, I think you did some stuff that you shouldn't have done, and like, I now can't watch this match in the same light.
And it's funny too, because like we were like I think it was yesterday I posted the picture in our group chat with Jesse and Jeff, and it was the picture from the first to crown the inaugural North American Championship when they had the ladder match and the 6-man match, and like half the guys in the match have been featured endeavored, and
right.
Lars Sullivan's gone, Velveteen Dream is gone, EC3 is gone, and then there's only like Ricochet, Adam Cole, and Killian Dane are the only ones left. And if you look at the three that are left, I'm like, Ricochet is the main eventer of main event. And Killian Dane's in a basic gimmick tag team with Drake Maverick, and the only one that's actually done anything.
Doing anything is Adam Cole, baby! Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's good for Adam Cole because he was actually able to, exceed what everybody was expecting, but he was the most established of anybody in that match. And that's why he's still around and he's still getting high-profile matches. And it's a shame, too, because like we were talking about with John Morrison when he was in Lucha Underground. Like one of his best rivalries was against Prince Puma, who ended up being Ricochet. And it's just a shame. Ricochet is such a tremendous in-ring worker. I remember when he signed with WWE, I freaking lost my shit because I'm like, this dude is awesome. He's a great performer. I loved watching him when he was in Lucha Underground. And his match with John Morrison was what really stood out for me. But, like, I mean, to go back to the Velveteen Dream, like his match that he had with Ricochet when they had that build-up and, like, Velveteen Dream is on the ramp talking shit and Ricochet runs, does the backflip out of the ring and lands on his feet.
Lands on his feet.
And then a great match at the takeover, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, that match was awesome. And now I'm like, I'm less likely to watch a match like that again because of what Velveteen Dream did.
Yeah. And Tommy chiming in saying, he doesn't have to like someone or a person to enjoy their work. I do understand that. There are some wrestlers who have done things I don't like. But certainly with what Benoit did, that exceeds the level of, like, where I could sit there and kind of shut that out for a bit. It's like going, dude killed his family.
Mm-hmm.
I can't shut that out. Velveteen Dream, it seems pretty clear that he did things with possibly little girls and possibly with little boys. It hasn't been proven in the court of law, but I think there's enough evidence out there that makes it seem like things happen. And that's one of those things where I'm like, little kids, unforgivable.
No, I agree with you on that.
Like where I cannot shut that out of my brain. If I'm watching you and I'm like, so yeah.
See,
all right. Mike Rainey chiming in saying, speaking of Adam Cole, baby, is he moving up to the main roster, Raw or SmackDown?
I don't see it.
Since he closed his program with Kyle O'Reilly, so to speak. Although, again, based off the end of what we saw after Stand and Deliver, where like they're in the hospital, where like it looked like they were ready to throw hands again in the hospital. I don't know if we saw the end of that. I think they're giving Adam Cole, baby, some time off. I think we might possibly see him coming up at Double or Nothing, watching his girlfriend win the AEW Women's Championship.
She's going to, too. I almost can tell you right now, a week away, and it's already a stone cold.
Oh, it's stone cold lead pipe lock.
If she doesn't, it's
Britt Baker. Dr. Britt Baker is going to win that championship. If she doesn't, it's a crime.
what was the old saying that Gorilla Monsoon said? It was miscarriage of justice or some shit like that.
Yes.
That's
yes.
Would be if she does not beat Hikaru. And nothing against Hikaru Shida, but
She's done a great job as a champion.
She's been fantastic. They booked her perfectly as the AEW Women's Champion, but this is Britt Baker's time. She deserves to be the champion.
Hikaru Shida's time is up.
Her time
Britt Baker's time is now.
You can't see.
Speaking of which, allegedly, the leader of the C Nation may be coming back sooner than we think.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with the topic of what WWE announced yesterday, where they were going to be going on a 25-city tour starting July 25th. And I think it's from the way that they were making it.
July 16th.
July 16th? Okay.
In Houston, Texas.
I apologize.
I think it was because of the 25 and the 25-city tour. Yeah.
That's a brainless moment for you. But yeah, I think that's great because I think it looks like it's only going to be for like the televised shows. They're going to be traveling for, which is fantastic. I don't see how any of those 25 cities is going to end up anywhere here in Hampton Roads, but I'll survive. But I think this is great. I love to see the fans come back. I love to see the wrestlers travel a little bit. Maybe this is a way that they could see whether or not like absolutely abolishing house shows is an actual reality if this goes the way they think that it possibly could go. And I'm one of those ones that's like, I get it. Like it's got to be tough for these guys traveling to 250, maybe even 300 days a year, not seeing their families, just constantly just beating up their bodies. And just thinking about it, like how many people, like since this pandemic started, not really a hell of a lot of people really got injured because they're not working. Like, they're not doing Monday Night Raw and
they're not doing 5 days a week.
Yeah. And it's like, it's insane. And it's like, I think this is good for them. I don't think they should be doing all this traveling around, working 5-6 days a week, doing all these, all the news things and all that stuff. No, they should just be doing Raws, the SmackDowns, the NXTs, and the pay-per-views, and that's it.
And if they have like a special show, whether it's at Madison Square Garden, European tours, obviously, just to keep the brand relevant over in the other places. But
they go on like a 2-week tour if they do like all of Europe and like do some Japan work or Asia and all that stuff. I don't have a problem with them doing it because that's a good way for them to keep the fans from outside of this country, still attached to the program and everything.
Being able to see them up close in person, and yeah.
Like I'm not gonna be mad that if we can't go on a
not gonna.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be mad if they don't come up to the Hampton Coliseum for the Christmas holiday tour, like December 21st or some shit like that. I'm not going to lose sleep over stuff like that. I mean, it'd be nice if they came back here for a Raw or a SmackDown like they've done.
Halloween Havoc.
Or the hell. I mean, hey, what the hell? We haven't gotten NXT here since like 2017. Come on. They need to come back.
We got to see Elias.
We got to see the GOAT Elias and the GOAT Shinsuke Nakamura and Austin.
And Samoa Joe.
And Austin Aries. Remember that. We saw Austin Aries.
I've seen Austin Aries a couple times. I saw him, I think it was at Slammiversary for Impact in like 2011. But, one of the things for this tour that they've talked about, I think there are certain sections of the population that are a little bit leery of getting back out there into a big crowd environment. But, according to the scientists out there, they're saying if you have been vaccinated, even if you're next to somebody with coronavirus, the likelihood of you catching it is very small. If you do catch it, the likelihood of you getting sick is almost nothing.
You might get
so, there's still a part of me that, like, if I go to one of these events, I will probably still wear a mask just because it's like, after all we've been through, I'm like, I don't know about you, and I don't know about you, because I think there's a lot of lying people out there that might have not gotten vaccinated, and they just want to breathe the air without. And I'm like going, yeah, I don't even want a little coronavirus. seen a couple of things up close that I would rather not have happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'll say this, like yesterday, speaking of coronavirus, we got the email at work yesterday stating that we no longer have to wear our masks if we've been vaccinated. So as soon as I found out about that, the first thing I did was I took my mask off, and it just felt weird because I've been wearing a mask in that building for 14 months now. And it's like, I don't know how to act without the mask on.
But with all that being said, one of the draws that they hope will bring people out to see the shows, because I think there are people hesitant to buy tickets in certain areas because they're like, I don't know about this. But one of the draws they're hoping is John Cena. So John Cena may be coming back to WWE TV. I'm going to say, you know what? They announced, I forget if it was during Backlash or if it was during one of the shows this week, but Hell in a Cell, which normally was in October, is going to be in June. Are we going to see John Cena return in June at Hell in a Cell to help promote going forward when they start going live? I don't know if he's still in Canada at this point, but even so, the fact that there's a vaccine out there, I think freely flowing from Canada to the United States is going to be starting to happen soon, and I think that also will allow a certain beast incarnate to return to North America and return to the United States soon and be on WWE programming.
I'm going to tell you right now, Jay, this is almost like a lock from my perspective on this thing. I could see a situation where Cena does come back. I don't know what his filming obligations are up until like this point, because I know that was the reason he missed WrestleMania, was because he was in Canada and he was shooting for a show or a movie or whatever it was. Brock Lesnar's not going to come back until there's fans, and Brock Lesnar come back, and Vince McMahon's going to pay Brock Lesnar whatever the fuck he wants to come back, and he's going to be back. And I'm going to tell you this much: we're going to see Becky Lynch come back not too much longer after. I could see maybe a scenario where they can maybe push her back into like SummerSlam, just because that's, as they say, it's the biggest show of the summer, the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. They could do something like that. I just think that once the fans start coming back, and it's like, oh my God, look, Becky Lynch is back, and oh my God, Brock Lesnar's coming back, and oh my God, it's John Cena. Where's John Cena? I don't see John Cena.
But with that last year before the pandemic, one thing they were trying to do is, they started doing Royal Rumble in like baseball stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
And last summer they were supposed to start having SummerSlam at larger like stadium type places. And if they're going to try to do that again, they definitely need some names to move some tickets. As far as that goes,
I'd love to see him go back to Wembley for a SummerSlam.
I think, specifically with the fact that they're on Peacock, and I've been talking about this for years, it used to be, because so much of their business was based off of getting money from pay-per-views, it's like, well, if people are already paying Peacock, again, it kind of doesn't matter anymore because Peacock has paid WWE $1 billion for the next 5 years. So it doesn't matter almost how many people subscribe or not.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you have a pay-per-view in the middle of the night. I mean, that's why they do the Saudi shows. Yep. Okay, you're willing to do that for a Saudi Arabia special show, but, like, can't you do that for a regular old, like, pay-per-view?
Could you imagine?
I would love for them to do WrestleMania somewhere not on North America. I actually wouldn't mind if they did it in Mexico City. Like, if they were staying within North America, but, like, they've only been in Canada and the United States for doing WrestleMania. And if they did it in Mexico City, if they chose to do, like, I mean, like, if you go to Hawaii, let's say, like, that's still United States, but, like, a long way away. But, they've got the stadium where University of Hawaii plays.
Yep.
Where, like, it would just be a different atmosphere because you're in a different time zone. And, certainly it would be nice. I remember, your complaint about, what was it, WrestleMania 31?
Yep.
Where, like, Undertaker came out and it was still a little bit light out. and
Sting. They ruined Sting's
entrance.
first.
It could have been so much better if they put Sting on like second to last.
Yeah. And another thing too, and it really, and like I was actually talking about this with Big C last weekend, and I said one of the things that really pissed me off about WrestleMania 31 was we got to see how Bray Wyatt actually walks down to the ring in his entrance, because like, you know, when he had his old school Wyatt family entrance and he had the lantern, he would make that very slow, methodical walk, and we're like, oh, this is so badass. And then he goes up against, I think it was the year he went up against The Undertaker. And
that was 31, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, and like you see how he walks to the ring, and I'm like, well, this just ruined everything. And like,
and speaking of Bray Wyatt, he did put out a tweet after the zombie.
Yeah.
And he just said, "Miss me yet?" You know, because you know, and we were part of the chorus that was like, what the hell was that for his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania? And I personally said I don't want to see them wrestle in a match at WrestleMania ever again, because both times it's just been an absolute dud. I mean, the only person I think coming out of that WrestleMania match that like you're like, all right, well, what's going on, was Alexa Bliss. You know, with Randy Orton, whether he wins or loses at WrestleMania at this point, it almost doesn't matter. He's Randy frickin' Orton.
Go. And
but like, you had the unstoppable monster in The Fiend, who now apparently can just get stopped all the time.
And it just goes back to, because like, you know, we're just talking about Hell in a Cell happening next month, and it was like they had the Hell in a Cell between Seth Rollins and the Fiend, and like Seth Rollins basically beat the bloody hell out of the Fiend, hit him with chairs, curb stomped the shit out of him, and they basically called the match in a match that can't end in a no disqualification or count out, and say, all right, we got to end this. No, that's not how it.
And then the Fiend gets up as if nothing happened.
And then yeah, and then he goes to WrestleMania, he's one RKO, and then he's done. Loses to 7-year-old Goldberg. I'm sorry, I just they've completely, and the amount of surprise I have is this much, and that's probably giving them way too much. Is like they really fucked up the booking on the Fiend, and I'm not surprised. It's Vince McMahon. It's WWE. It's WWE, and it's father. It's such good shit, pal. But, you know, and I'd like to see what they're gonna do with the Fiend. I don't know what they're going to do with the Fiend, but I'd like to see what's going to happen. I'd like to see him come back as the Fiend, because that was pretty cool. And I feel for him. I really do. I feel for the Fiend at this point, because it's like, this is he's still not really gotten over the loss of his friend, you know, John Huber, aka Brody Lee / Luke Harper, you know, and I get it, because like even I'm just a wrestling fan, and even I'm still kind of freaking hurt behind that. Speaking of which, real quick. So I ordered something off of AEW. It was a pre-order. First time I ever pre-ordered anything in my life. I pre-ordered it back in February, and I got the email yesterday that it finally shipped.
Oh, great!
And it's my Brody Lee micro brawler, and like I saw the email and I actually shed a tear, because I was like, this is my way of actually paying homage to Luke Harper / Brody Lee. So I was really excited about that, because I'm like, I got to get on this, because I don't know how many they're going to sell and all that shit. But like,
good shit, man.
But to go back to like with the Fiend and everything, I'm curious to see where they're going to go with the Fiend. How much more time is he going to need? I'm just hoping that he's in the right mental state when he does come back.
Sure. You know, this whole discussion actually originally started at Damian Priest and The Miz. So going back to Backlash, let's get into the Dirty Dogs versus the Mysterios. Now, I mean, that was, again, last week for me, the Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock was the Mysterios winning. And I, you know, they specifically had Dominic get beat up before the match. So, you know, Rey Mysterio, ever the underdog, also trying to be a
overprotective
father taking care of and watching over his son. You know, Rey went out there and was basically doing a handicap match for the first 2/3 of the match. Dominic comes out and Rey does not want to tag him. Like, no, you're hurt. I don't want to see my son get hurt. But eventually Dominic tags himself in. And they, Eddie's son ends up doing Eddie's ending move to finish the match. It was not the greatest 5-star frog splash. I would not call it a 5-star frog splash. I would say it was about a 2.5-star frog splash.
You gave it more than I would have.
But, in the end, we all knew the Mysterios were going to win. I enjoyed the fact of how they got there, I guess. It wasn't just like, oh, they just have a match and they just do this. I love the fact that, like, Ziggler and Roode are like, all right, we're going to pick on the dude who is less experienced and won't see all of this coming. So we're going to get one up on them, and we're going to do our best to maintain our titles in any way, shape, or form.
And I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm happy for Ray, and the fact that him and Dominic are the first father and son tag team to win the tag team championships in WWE. It's a great honor for such a legendary figure in the wrestling industry for the last 25, 30 years. And I'm happy for him. I think this is a great moment for Dominic as well. But with me, I'm still on that fence about how I really feel about Dominic Mysterio. I don't think that he's there yet in the ring. He's still a little green. He's still a little rough around the edges. He needs to get his work. He's got to work on his in-ring ability a little bit. And like I said, he's learning from one of the greatest. Rey Mysterio is the greatest luchador of all time, and it's not even close.
And you know what? He's also getting into the ring with Dolph Ziggler every week and Robert Roode every week.
And he started his
and Seth Rollins
with Seth Rollins, and he went up against Buddy Murphy, and he's going up against guys that can actually work. It's like, even when he was doing those tag team matches, he's getting in the ring with Montez Ford, and I could sit there and talk how wonderful Montez Ford is in the ring. He's getting in there with people that he can work with that are going to help show off his strengths in the ring and not have his flaws be exposed as much. But I just think that when he gets into it, it's like the thing that we've said about John Cena and Roman Reigns. The two of them wrestle to the caliber of their opponents. So John Cena can have a 5-star match when he goes up against somebody like CM Punk, but he's going to look like a bag of dicks when he goes up against the Great Khali. The same thing with Roman Reigns. But
to be fair, anybody going against Great Khali looks like a bag of dicks. I'm sorry, WWE Hall of Famer Great Khali.
But like John Cena going up against the Big Show looks like shit. John Cena going up against Kane, and Kane's one of the best big men of all time. And it's just like, he didn't look that good against like the corporate Kane and all that shit. And I just
and shit, man.
But like the two best matches I've ever seen two of the best matches I've ever seen John Cena in were against CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011, which was 100% a 5-star match, and his match
AJ Styles
at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. That was fantastic. I love that match. And it's like, you got CM Punk, who's one of the best in-ring performers, and you got AJ Styles, who's an absolute GOAT. And it's like, he wrestled to the caliber of his opponents. So, I mean, with Dominic, it's like, yes, right now he's looking good because he's in the ring with Robert Roode, who is a long-standing veteran, who is a really good worker in the ring, and Dolph Ziggler, who could sell ice water to Eskimos in Alaska, or whatever the hell the old saying is.
I mean, think it. With Dolph, look how he sold. Not that we would know based off of Kevin Dunn, but look how he sold Edge's first spear when he returned.
Yep.
Look at the spear selling that he did when Goldberg speared him out of the building at SummerSlam a couple of years ago. It's like, and they used Dolph specifically with Goldberg because it was after the shit show that was the Blood Money show in Saudi Arabia, where he went against The Undertaker, and they're like going, well, we got to give this dude some credibility back. So they're like, let's put him in the ring with Dolph. Dolph will make him look good. And he did.
And it's like, remember when Zack Ryder won the United States Championship for like 2 cups of coffee and a piece of pie? And he took the title from Dolph Ziggler because Dolph Ziggler was Mr. Money in the Bank at the time. And like, the way Dolph Ziggler sold that zigzag was just like, he sold the shit out of it, and that place went absolutely nuts. And I don't think the place would have reacted the way they did if it wasn't for the fact that Dolph Ziggler sold the zigzag as well as he did. I mean, great to see Zack Ryder win a singles title because the dude deserved it. But it's like, yeah, but But like it's that's why I think that they're having Dolph Ziggler in the ring now with Dominic Mysterio. Him and Robert Roode are going to definitely help Dominic get a little, seem a little bit better in the ring.
But that's part of the thing, though. Like, part of a big part of our criticism for a couple of years with Roman Reigns is, he looked the part and he was passable in the ring.
Yeah.
But like when it came to the mic, he was terrible at the mic. It took him getting into it verbally with John Cena before he finally, like, he went from being like not good to like going, all right, he's gotten to average. And then after like his Undertaker feud, like, again, I think his best promo ever was that night after WrestleMania after he beat the Undertaker, because he just said, this is my yard now. But like for 15 minutes, he had the crowd in the palm of his hand. But it took him going against somebody of that caliber, between Cena and between the Undertaker, before he got it. Even with Corbin right now, it's like, it used to sound like, they had the script right in front of him, and he was like, and the very little man, Chad Gable, and I don't like him, and short EG, but now at least he sounds like pretty passable in a solid promo when he's in the ring. But maybe, that obviously Dominic Mysterio has the stock of what it could take to be very good in the ring and do things in the wrestling business. Obviously, having him with his dad is extremely helpful, but putting him in the ring with people that can elevate him hopefully will translate into him overcoming, the early stuff, the greenness and what have you.
And I'll tell you,
sooner than originally intended. And I'm wondering if, part of I think the original idea was he was going to debut in 2021, but when the pandemic hit, they're like going, well, you know what? There's not going to be an audience, so they're not going to boo him. They're not going to do anything. We can control what's going on. So why don't we give him a year of being in the ring in front of cameras and see what the kid can do?
It's funny you mentioned not having the fans there, and like the fans aren't going to boo Dominic. There is one wrestler that I'm really intrigued by when the fans do return and how they're going to receive him, once they return, and that's Apollo Cruz. Because like that was our biggest gripe about him when he got called up when he did a few years ago, was that he had no personality. The dude was a performer. He had the look to him, and now that he is turned heel and has actually developed a personality, he has done fantastic. And he was that never got any kind of reaction whether he was on Raw or SmackDown. Now I'm curious to see how the fans are going to receive him, and I really do hope that the fans give him the ovation that he deserves. I'm pretty sure,
even if it's boos.
Yeah, if they boo the shit out of him, that's great.
Great.
Because at the end of the day, the most important thing about being a professional wrestler is getting a reaction from the fans.
Sure. Mike, as much as I understand where you're coming with, where you're not sure if Dominic deserves tag team gold at this point, I know WWE likes to make history, and part of history here is the first father-son team ever.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I were Rey Mysterio, you know what? That's something forever. Rey Mysterio as a father will be like,
yeah,
this is freaking awesome. I get to work with my kid, and I get to show him what I do, and we're a team.
Well, technically, I mean, to be fair, Rey really didn't win the tag team titles with his son. Rey won the tag.
It was with Eddie's son.
Eddie's son. I mean,
I'm sorry. I did mess that up. I messed that up. I apologize.
I really, honest to goodness, I am really surprised they didn't do it with Randy Orton and Cowboy Bob back in the day, because that would have been a good way to do it. Because I think that's the only like father-son combo I can think of that could have done something like that.
Sure. All right, so Jessica saying, do you see Dominic turning on his dad in the future? And I 100% say yes. my feeling is that Rey Mysterio's retirement match will be against Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And he is going to put his son over.
Yep. And then Dominic needs to don a mask and change his whole shtick and everything, and then I'll be happy. Because and the shtick really isn't the problem that I have. That man needs a freaking mask. Like, he is ugly as sin. I am sorry.
Well, and maybe that's what the stipulation is. Like, it's like one of those things where Dominic is a heel. When he beats his dad, he takes off the mask and more or less
Puts it on himself.
And
Oh.
turns into like an evil version of Rey Mysterio.
Hey, he could be Rey Mysterio Jr.
Rey Mysterio Jr. So, all right, Mike Rainey chiming in saying he's hearing rumors that Rey's daughter now wants to get into wrestling.
I heard that
too. Hey, you know what? If she can go, she can go. I mean, I did see a thing come out this week about The Rock's daughter, and you know, they say that she's not quite ready for TV, but they say that, like, she was the most improved at the Performance Center in the last year. And, you know, if she keeps working at it, she's going to get there. And, you know, if she even has, you know, 10% of her father's charisma, she'll get over.
Yeah. And that's not even like an insult on her part. I mean, 30 plus years that I've watched professional wrestling, I have never seen anybody with the charisma that The Rock has. That is just a gift that man had, and power to him. And I think his daughter does have the capability. Like you said, if she has a tenth of it, she's going to be pretty good.
So, but we'll see where that goes. And if, you know, Aaliyah wants to get into wrestling, again, it kind of comes down to, you know, how good is she and can she stand on her own? You know, you have the cases of Ted DiBiase Jr. versus Charlotte Flair.
Yep.
One of them was able to take the name and elevate herself, and the other one had the name, you know, did okay for a couple of years. Obviously, he could go in the ring, but he just didn't have, you know, the showmanship that his dad did. So he didn't succeed. I mean, one of my favorite matches was when they had the reunited DX with Triple H and Shawn Michaels go against what was the faction with Cody, Ted, and Randy Orton?
Oh, they were
But anyway, they had a Hell in the Cell match, and it was a great match. And Ted DiBiase.
Legacy.
Yes, Legacy. They were great in that match. As far as, like, I want to say that they locked Triple H out of the cell.
Yeah, that sounds.
And they just beat on Shawn Michaels 2-on-1 for most of the match. Eventually, Triple H figures out his way in. But, you know, the name only gets you so far. Sometimes it's a shadow, and sometimes it's a thing that gives you that little boost. And, you know, whether Aaliyah is able to take that and push forward, you know, but you have to want it. You know, Charlotte wouldn't be as successful as she's been if she didn't want it, as much as it's kind of like she doesn't need to be put into the title picture at every moment. And even right now, it seems like they're kind of sort of like, it's not that she's out of the title picture for Monday Night Raw, but they're definitely, if she's going to get back to going against Rhea Ripley, she's going to take the long road to get there. So
the road less traveled for Charlotte Flair.
The roads less traveled. See what I did there? Yes.
Fantastic. I mean, but speaking of, you know, Charlotte Flair and the Raw Women's Championship, we did have that in a triple threat match at WrestleMania Backlash.
Yes. And both you and I were wrong. We thought Charlotte was going to get the title back. You know who was right? Our dude, Mike Rainey, predicted that Rhea Ripley was going to retain.
And to be fair, I mean, am I surprised that Rhea Ripley?
To be fair.
But, like, am I surprised Rhea Ripley retained? No. I thought that she should retain. I just thought that typical WWE booking was going to lead to Charlotte Flair winning the title back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, these ladies put on a heck of a match. You know,
yeah.
It wasn't, you know, the boilerplate triple threat match, there actually was a lot of like all three ladies in the ring at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, because the boilerplate is like, all right, you knock one out of the match, and then you more or less have a one-on-one match for a little while, and then when that person gets back in, they knock somebody else out of the match, and then you get a one-on-one match for a while, and then that other person gets involved. But there was a lot of like actual stuff where all three of them were in the ring, beating the heck out of each other, and I thought they all brought it.
They did. They had one hell of a match between the three of them. I was thoroughly entertained, and like
I like when Charlotte did the double natural selection. She was trying to do the Roman Reigns thing. You know what? I think she probably watched our podcast and said, "Oh, I can't stack them on top of each other because technically Edge won the match at WrestleMania." But that's just me here talking about that. Charlotte made sure she didn't stack, Asuka and Rhea on top of each other, but tried, doing like the Superman pin over the two of them, and
I enjoyed that. That was actually a pretty impressive.
It was a great near fall.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like going, great, she's going to do this now too. I'm like going, all right, not too fast. So,
such good.
Tommy is saying he believes the man will be the next Raw Women's Champion. And then Charlotte will beat the man.
Oh, of course.
So, yeah. Mike, as much as we agree with you that it would have been idiotic for WWE to take the title off Rhea Ripley so quickly, that's just what we've come to expect from WWE at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't.
All right. Jessica saying Chris Brown wanted me to ask, what do you guys think of the rumor regarding Cena coming back to confront the head of the table once they go back on the road again? I'm going to say it's probably going to happen. I'm think it's going to culminate all this stuff at SummerSlam. Head of the table versus John Cena.
Yep, I agree.
And Cena will do the honors.
Yep, I agree with that too.
I just think with Cena loves WWE, and I think the difference between he and The Rock went to Hollywood for all those years because he's like, hey, I need to build up some credibility in Hollywood before I decide to come back. At this point, with John Cena, I think he's got enough credibility in Hollywood, and also he's just a different kind of dude who, loves wrestling. And like, if there was a way that John Cena, if there were 48 hours in a day, John Cena would do both professional wrestling and movies at the same time.
Agreed.
But yeah, I definitely see, like, even though Cena and Roman had a feud back in the day, Roman has matured so much as a character, and John Cena might get cheered this time.
Yeah, I agree. It's
so
possible.
I definitely see that happening. The rumors going around were the WWE really want this version of Roman Reigns to go against Cena, Brock Lesnar, and The Rock. I wouldn't also, him versus Goldberg. As much, we're going to get Goldberg for 2 matches a year. So if they want to have a spear versus spear match, let's see this happen. But I just ask them, I pray to them, I beg to them, please do not have it be a boilerplate Bill Goldberg match. I know that Goldberg matches aren't supposed to be any longer than 5 minutes, but change it up a little bit. That was my complaint with the McIntyre match that we got at WrestleMania this year. It was the boilerplate Bill Goldberg match, like the beginning of it, where like that they kind of beat the hell out of each other before the match happened, was just a slight bit different, but it's like it lasts a few minutes. Goldberg ends up taking a few of the finishing moves, kicks out of the finishing moves, and the person he's going against gets the spear, gets the jackhammer, and will kick out of those, and then. Usually Goldberg's been winning, but I guess the slight difference was Drew McIntyre won that time, but in general, it's like it's the same match.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that when they bring Goldberg back to go against the head of the table, that we get something that's a little bit different.
We still need to see Goldberg versus Hugh Morris one more time.
Yes.
The first opponent, numero uno.
Is that supposed to be funny?
What?
Is that supposed to be humorous?
What?
I just need to point this out. It's been something sticking in my brain for, basically since we started the podcast. Notice that I have an Irish icon behind me, and so do you.
Yes, I do.
Move your head just a little bit.
Yep, I have I actually have my scarf, my Irish scarf behind me. Well, I mean, as a Notre Dame fan, I have Notre Dame pretty much throughout the man cave here. I thought you were going to make a comment about the fact that I had Mr. Kennedy in the corner.
Kennedy!
Kind of surprisingly, like, it just kind of worked out that way.
Kennedy! All right, so getting back to WrestleMania Backlash, we had Bianca Belair going against Bayley. A lot of B's going on here. Backlash, Belair, Bayley. Everybody and their mother knew Bianca Belair was going to win this match. But beyond this, I thought it was a solid match. And what they did beyond that, coming on SmackDown, where Bayley just like, I enjoyed the heck out of Bayley's promo last night at the beginning of the show, where she just like eviscerated all the champions on stage except for Apollo Cruz, but specifically talking about how Belair cheated by using her hair to, use that to hold Bayley's leg down. Allegedly, there might be a hair versus hair match happening in the near future. Somewhat near future for the two of them. My guess is if you get something like that, it's going to be a SummerSlam match, because I think we might be seeing them in a Hell in a Cell match in June.
And it was funny too, because like, since you did bring up the hair, did you notice at the end of the match that Bayley's broke away from the hair and they still counted it as a 3 count?
Yeah, it was clunky.
Yeah,
clunky. Yeah.
See, I don't like it when they try to do like gimmicky shit like that. And it's like, just stick to the program. Just do it like you've been doing it for years. I know you're trying to get the hair over and all that stuff, but it's like, it's unnecessary.
Mike Rainey, as far as Kennedy goes, so Kennedy landed in Impact Wrestling for a while. He was the champion there, and, he and his wife had a couple of kids. They had twins, if I'm remembering right. And I just think that he didn't want the heavy travel schedule. He had dealt with injuries during his career and just kind of retired from wrestling. And he teaches wrestling at this point. And there's been a couple of times he's been lured back into the ring to do things here and there. And I think he would still be amenable to do something in the ring for a short bit. But, the end of his tenure at WWE wasn't the greatest, because he kind of called out guys for a little bit about doing steroids, and did an interview about it. And then, lo and behold, I think it was not that long after, he got popped for steroids. So it's like, and the last match I think he had was when they were supposed to have a show in Denver.
Yep.
And because the Nuggets were in the playoffs and ended up having a playoff game in Denver that night, they ended up going to LA, and they ended up having an LA Clippers or LA Lakers versus Denver Nuggets theme to a 10-person tag match that was the main event of Monday Night Raw. And Mr. Kennedy, if I'm remembering right, ate an RKO and got pinned in that match. And that was the last we saw of him in WWE. Like I said, he ended up in Impact for a bit. I want to say he also did a couple of things in Ring of Honor, some stuff on the independent scene, but more or less, he is semi-retired from wrestling and has a wrestling school.
I will say this about Kennedy. I really
Kennedy.
I drank the Kool-Aid behind the hype of Mr. Kennedy and everything like that. I remember when he won Money in the Bank, and I want to say it was the third Money in the Bank match they had that he actually won that one, and he got hurt and he had to relinquish the briefcase. So that push for him ended due to an injury. The second one he had was he was in that storyline where they were trying to determine who was going to be the illegitimate son of Vince McMahon.
Mr. McMahon.
And they were kind of pushing it towards it because at the end they had a promo between with Kennedy and Vince McMahon, and Kennedy was like, "Mister," and he pointed at Vince and went, "Kennedy," and he had like that smirk and like, "Oh my God," they kind of planted that seed. And then the next day he got popped for the steroids, and then I want to say after he returned, I think he got hurt again, and then he kind of fell out of wherever the hell he fell out of. But like he returned that night when they were in Los Angeles instead of when they were supposed to be in Denver. And in the match, I guess he was a little careless at the time, and something happened between him and Randy Orton. And on the flight after the show, Randy Orton went to Vince McMahon and said, "Hey, I got a problem with Kennedy. He tried to hurt me." And because of the backlash that Vince was getting because of this whole big deal that they made with Denver, because it's like, they have a basketball team in the playoffs. Basketball at the end of the day is a bigger entity than the WWE will ever be. And he took a lot of criticism for that, and he was already in a foul mood because he had to switch from Denver to Los Angeles in a very short.
They did that stupid East Stand Cronky skit throughout the night.
Yep.
Terrible.
And it was basically because, it was just a situation where Randy Orton at that time had a lot of pull. He was, a lot of people were getting in trouble because of what Randy was saying. And it just so happens that it was just a perfect storm that cost Kennedy his job with WWE.
Yeah. So I think we could see him at some point someday. Honestly, I think if we saw him in WWE again, it might be more in the NXT realm. I don't think it would be I loved him. I thought he was hilarious. But I just don't think he ever became a big enough name where I'm not going to say it would be Grandmaster Sexay level of no people knowing who the heck he was, but I think it might be close.
Yeah.
And that would just be sad to me. But
it's
anyway.
He wouldn't be, I'll tell you right now, he wouldn't be received the way MVP was received when he came back last year's Royal Rumble.
Right. I agree. But circling all the way back, Bianca Belair winning the match.
Yep.
I think this is leading to a Hell in a Cell between Bianca and Bayley. And if they're going to do the hair versus hair match, it's going to be at SummerSlam.
Agreed.
So
I'm
all right.
excited to see those two inside the Hell in a Cell too. Just a quick add to that.
Right. So then we had Lashley, Braun Strowman, and Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match for the WWE title. I love these type of matches because it was like a car crash from the beginning. I like when it looks like they legit are beating the hell out of each other, and shit's getting broken all over the place. And that's what happened exactly in this match. You got Lashley going through the Titantron board or the backstage board, with the pyrotechnics. It was a cool visual. And I'm a big fan of Lashley. I've been a strong advocate for him, and I'm looking forward to when Brock Lesnar can cross the border and these two can cross paths.
Oh, I can't wait for that either.
But Lashley ends up going over in this match, and that they've been making him look strong, as much as they did a couple of things where I was like, I wasn't sure, pre-WrestleMania stuff. But, he keeps on winning. But, again, with this storyline, with the thing they've got going, it appears that we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, has anybody looked shittier than Braun Strowman since last year's WrestleMania?
Well, as far as booking goes, kind of, sort of, it's been bad, but he didn't. It's not like he didn't look like a monster in this match. like he got his stuff in and what have you, but you know, he was there to do what he needed to do, which was take the pin.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a shame because of the fact that he was just Universal Champion no less than a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I guess it's because I'm a Braun Strowman apologist and I kind of like the dude. So I like to see him do a little bit more than what they're doing with him now.
I think at some point we're going to get that. But, you know, with Bobby Lashley, you know, he's over 40 and, you know, he still looks great and he can still move great and do all the stuff in the ring. But how many years does he have left? I mean, he's done interviews where, you know, he sounds like 5 years or less. So if we're going to get that Brock Lesnar match, it's going to be soon.
Oh, it's definitely going to happen soon.
He actually called out, I think, a UFC champion this past week.
For the life of me, I can't think of who the guy's name was. And
I can't remember either, but honestly, I would freaking love that. Bobby Lashley with the WWE title going into a UFC event. Because, I mean, Bobby Lashley is a legit badass who can go in the UFC ring and not embarrass himself. I mean, he didn't fight UFC. He fought in Bellator and was 16-2.
Yeah.
And one loss, I think, was like really early on. And like the other loss, I want to say it was a close match, but like Bobby Lashley would not embarrass himself, would not embarrass WWE if he did that. So. Tommy's saying Strowman is the new Big Show. Yes,
exactly.
That torch was passed when they had, I think it was the cage match.
Yep.
Which actually was a pretty good match between the Big Slow and Braun Strowman. But there are going to be brighter days for Braun Strowman in the next couple of years. You know, you keep putting him against main event talent, and he doesn't look terrible. That'll be great.
Gags the clown, baby.
Gags, you're a little late, but earlier in the show, I was drinking this. I'm sorry, I can't flip this upside down, but yeah. I was drinking a stout on the show. So, Effin Mark's Hall of Famer, Gags the clown. Effin Mark's Hall of Famer, Tommy. So.
And we had Effin Mark's Hall of Famer, Don't Eat the Brown Snow.
Yeah. Hall of Fame show all around.
Yeah. Wait.
But Lashley winning was great. You know, as much as I was hoping and praying that WWE wouldn't do something stupid, they didn't do something stupid here. I mean, they saved all their stupid for the lumberjack match.
Oh, man.
It's like going, it was a really good show, and you're just sitting there at the end of the night. What are you thinking about? Lumberjacks that were zombies. That somehow there was a force field around the ring before the 3 count where they couldn't get into the damn ring.
Jay, my favorite part about that was, do you know how many pay-per-views I've watched since we started doing this podcast? A bunch.
Enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be 2 a month.
Yeah. I'm glad those days are over. But it's not very often that I'm like, when I see something during a pay-per-view, especially something as bad as that was, it's not very often where I think to myself, yeah, Jay and I are definitely going to be talking about this at the end of the podcast for sure on Saturday, no questions asked. And that right there was the prime definition of that same situation, because it was, I don't even know, drizzle shits, hot garbage, a dumpster fire, whatever you want to call it. That's exactly what it was. And just the second that they came crawling out of that room, I said, oh, no. I'm like, this is stupid. They're doing something stupid, and I am not happy. I said, let this be a stupid little segment that they do. We get these freaking zombies, that's fine. And then when they came out to the ring and they were the lumberjacks, I was like, oh, my God, no, they're not. I'm like, this is terrible. No, just end this right now. And it's just, they killed John Morrison, Jay. They killed John on Sunday, and he was back again the next day on Monday. There's got to be something in those water fountains on Monday down in
I mean, we saw Aleister Black and we saw Rey Mysterio come back from getting thrown off the top of Titan Towers. So,
Jay, in the last year, we've seen Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio off of the Titan Tower. We saw Bray Wyatt get burnt. He was set on fire. And then we saw John Morris get eaten by zombies.
There's just not much that can be said about this. Except for
oh boy, the only good thing about that match was the fact that Damian Priest went over, and I think that this is going to lead to Priest getting a little bit of a push coming soon. Maybe he's one of the guys that goes up against Bobby Lashley if they can't get Brock Lesnar. Maybe he's the guy that sets up before he gets Brock Lesnar or after Brock Lesnar. But this was the right step for them in regards to Damian Priest and putting him on the path if they want to make a main event caliber guy.
Speaking of making a main event caliber guy, in the main event, we did have Cesaro going against Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns looked like a badass, going over clean in the match, not getting any help, choking out Cesaro. But this was a hell of a match.
Agreed.
And there were a lot of good matches, and for my taste, the triple threat for the WWE title was my favorite. But as far as pure wrestling, the match of the night was this one.
Yeah,
pure wrestling. This was the match of the night. I freaking loved it. I love the fact that you had Cesaro selling the injury and continuing to sell the injury, and you got Seth Rollins losing his mind. I mean, you could tell by the way he dresses himself. I don't know if he just has like a color swatch in front of his child and says, point at something. Because that's a feeling I get now when I watch him dress. It's like, okay, I mean, if nothing else, he stands out because he gets these crazy outfits, and like his crazy look last night on SmackDown was fantastic. He's got his hair all disheveled.
I love
and like the bug eyes. Janine, sorry about the bug eyes thing. Anyway,
it's fantastic. He is absolutely killing it now. I mean, just with the promos, obviously, and just the way he looks, not the actual things he's wearing. He's getting an F- in the wardrobe game. I'm sorry. He looks, he's pulling the stuff out of like Becky's closet and wearing it to SmackDown, and it's like, I don't even think Becky Lynch would even be caught dead wearing shit like that. And it's like she's letting her fiance or husband, whatever. I don't remember if they're married or not.
They might be married at this point. And the thing is, she's the man of the relationship, right?
Yeah. True. So I don't know. He's doing great work right now. I'm curious to see where this is going to go going forward with him, Cesaro, and Roman Reigns.
Well, and I think in general, Bret Hart back in the day said, you put people against main event level folks to get them to the main event.
Yep.
And hopefully this is the push for Cesaro that will get him to consistently be on the main event level. And Mike Rainey chiming in saying, like, he thinks that people would cheer loudly for Cesaro if he finally, reaches and grabs onto the brass ring, so to speak. And I agree with that, because I think it would be similar to the Kofi situation.
Absolutely.
Where you have so many years of good work that, people are appreciative of. And when you finally, like, the Kofi thing was just like, almost like forced upon them. And with the Cesaro thing, it would be more of a planned thing at this point. But, he's been with the company like a decade, and I think people have enough of love built up for him that I think it would be a good thing if he won a major championship. And when I'm saying major championship, he's already been the U.S. champion, and if I'm remembering right, already been Intercontinental champion, several time tag team champion. He needs to win the Universal Championship. He needs to win the WWE Championship. One of those.
Yeah, not the Intercontinental title.
Gags Clown, that's sad, man. You tried one trick, possibly broke your wrist, said fuck it, and chanted EC dub. That's fantastic.
Love it.
So, they had a fantastic match, and, it wasn't a disservice to Cesaro, didn't make him look bad, and continued reigns on his reign of dominance as the tribal chief. So that was Backlash, and here we are, 2 hours into the show. I mean, zombies took up a lot of shit.
I don't even think it's actually been 2 hours. It's just because of the fact that it took.
Well, we had some issues.
Yeah, we had some brainless issues. I mean, technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least, hey, we know how to do this going forward if we need to do this again.
Yes.
So, anyway, I think we should touch on a couple of things that happened that were of note during the week of professional wrestling, because I don't want to get sad and dragged into 3 hours of Raw.
Right.
But I did like that Lashley had an open challenge and told Drew McIntyre, hey, I'm not accepting a challenge from you or Braun Strowman. MVP's like, you guys get the back of the line, you lost last night. But at the end of the night, we did have one Kofi Kingston answering the open challenge, and they made it a non-title match, and 99.999999999% of the time, I'm really upset when a champion loses a non-title match. The way they did this and the way they're trying to set up the story going forward, I understand why they did what they did and had Kofi win by, a roll-up, and having more or less Drew McIntyre cost Bobby Lashley a victory, a little embarrassment for, the almighty, so it'll fire him up to the next level and say, all right, Drew, well, I said you were back of the line, but you know what? You pissed me off enough that I need to see you in Hell in a Cell. That's obviously what this is setting up for. I think we're going to end up seeing Kofi versus Bobby Lashley in a title match coming up to a Raw near you. But I think I'm not going to say it's going to be similar to the Brock Lesnar match on the first SmackDown on Fox.
Right.
But I think it's going to be a fairly short affair where he's going to be put in the Hurt Lock and taken out pretty quickly because Lashley has been humiliated and he's pissed off. That's my belief.
As the GOAT would say, it's going to be a washout.
Right. Right. But that's my belief of where they're going with that. But, it's good to see Kofi, getting a couple singles wins because he beat Randy Orton, too. Not the same level of the GOAT who's goated more than goats, whatever, goatdom. That dude, when he beat Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in the same night.
Yeah.
But, beating Randy Orton and Bobby Lashley in the same night, big deal. So them doing stuff with Kofi Kingston, I'm all for that since New Day just lost the tag team titles. So
yeah.
So that was one thing they did on Raw that I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
There was
we had your favorite thing that happens after pay-per-views. We had a rematch from the pay-per-view. Natty and Tamina went against Shayna and Nia. Natty and Tamina, retain the women's tag team championships.
Shock.
And yeah, actually, was that on the pay-per-view or was that on SmackDown?
SmackDown.
I honestly don't remember.
But you know what? The fact that they did it from SmackDown and had the rematch on Raw is just kind of bothersome because then we ended up getting the same thing basically on last night during SmackDown because it was, Tamina and Natty teaming up with Bianca to go up against Bayley and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. So it's like we got 3 times in like a week.
Oh, guess what? Even better. It's happening on Monday? Title rematch.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sad.
But since I mean one thing that happened this week that I thought was very interesting was that Jimmy Uso wanted a match teaming up with his brother against the Street Profits.
They want the smoke.
They want that smoke, and they told them, what the hell am I blanking on her right now? Sonya Deville basically told them, like, we kind of need a build up for a match like that. So how about we announce it for next week for SmackDown? So next week will be the first time since before COVID that we have the Usos in a tag team match, and they're going up against the Street Profits. I think that is such a great matchup for them to have their return match. Also, it kind of is going to further the storyline with Jimmy J and the
tribal chief.
So, yeah, I think this is going to be great, and I think they're really going to do something. Something's going to happen on Friday next week.
Something's happening.
Something's happening.
Which takes me into SmackDown a bit, where they brought out all the champions to make the announcement that they're once again going to be on tour, and they called it the Parade of Champions. And like they were going to make this big deal about Roman Reigns coming out last, and it's just Paul Heyman coming out and said, these are a bunch of title holders. Roman Reigns is the champion. He's WWE's champion, and he's going to come out when he wants to come out. And I thought that whole segment was great. Even Bayley coming out and crapping on everybody who was a face, talking about Bianca being a cheater, and how, like, I think it was Natty and Tamina, like, oh, you were getting ready to retire until you sniffed a little bit of relevancy. I was like, ooh, that's rough. That was good stuff as far as all that goes. But
such good shit, pal.
It was. And, later on when Jay is going to Roman, like, hey, man, like, Jimmy just put us in this match. I had nothing to do with that. And, like, Roman kind of, like, saying we, and, like, talking, like he believes that Jimmy is eventually going to fall into line and fall into the fold, and then, like, kind of whispers something to Jay. Like, obviously, we've been singing the praises of Roman Reigns for, like, the last, like, 9 months.
Yeah.
And he continues to kill it as tribal chief. Even, like, when he came out later on the show, when he's like, you know what, I'm kind of a humble guy, and it's like, so I'm going to have my
associate.
What do they call Paul Heyman? His executive counsel or what have you.
Things.
I'm going to have him tell you about all the greatness of me. And it's like, that's such a great heel douche thing to do. It was fantastic. And whether or not we're going to see the breakup of the Usos soon or later, I honestly, this is one of the few times I think with the WWE storyline where I'm kind of like, I don't know which way they're going to go, at least at this moment. I think at some point we will see a brother versus brother match, but I just don't know if it's going to happen now.
Can I make a confession in regards to Roman Reigns?
Do you no longer think he has the wettest hair?
Oh no, he's forever will have the wettest hair. But
okay.
I'm 100% digging the new entrance song a lot quicker than I thought I was going to.
I enjoy it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, that song, at least in my view, has gotten to Creed level, where it's like, I don't really like it, but I kind of like. It's like if Creed shows up around here on a reunion tour to play, I'm going to go there to kind of make fun of it, but also like be like, yeah, can you take me higher? That, like, I'll be singing along and I'm like going, you know what, this song kind of sucks, but like, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what the Durner after like he left the Shield.
Yeah.
And like he became what he was, where he was getting jammed down everybody's throat. Like when you heard that song, it was like, damn it. So.
And we wanted them to change his song too because of the fact that it was the Shield song that he was still carrying with.
Yeah.
It's like the Shield is done with, and you all need to move on. Seth Rollins did. Obviously, Jon Moxley did. So that was the last of like everything of the Shield. So now it's done.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I really am digging the new song. I'm actually a lot quicker than I thought I was going to.
Yeah. Mike, I think he had the new song still this week.
The original song was when Paul Heyman came out, because and it was actually kind of funny because everybody's going on Twitter going, huh, is Roman's old song going to be Paul Heyman's first official song in WWE?
Right.
So I thought that was
the Advocate.
Yeah.
So, but that was a bit as far as SmackDown goes. I mean, we had Shinsuke Nakamura with I don't know how to pronounce this.
Rick Boges.
Playing the guitar to play him in.
Eric Hagan, I think was his name in NXT.
So we had him play Nakamura in, and then at one point during the middle of the match, he ended up playing the guitar, distracted Corbin enough for Nakamura to get a victory over King Corbin. So this feud will continue. I hope it, brings one of these people in this feud somewhere, because both of them have kind of been wallowing for a bit.
Agreed.
I would have loved during the what they're now referring to as the Thunderdome era. I think there would have been times where Corbin would have been the heat magnet for all of this stuff, but there was just no crowd. There wasn't even a Thunderdome at that point. So we did have Nakamura going over in this match, and he is still wearing the crown. I did like that they showed Nakamura from his Instagram page wearing the crown all over town, and just
he deserves so much better than what he's getting. I've been saying that.
Well, we'll see what they do in the next couple of years. I mean, you know what? Right now they've got Cesaro in the queue, and hopefully after Cesaro they could give a push to not gonna work here anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, Nakamura.
It'd be nice, but like the way things are going, I don't know who's going to be the one that's going to finally take out the head of the table, the tribal chief.
Yeah, I understand. That might, like I've been saying, that could be years away. I get the feeling that he's not going to lose the title, and I don't think he's going to lose the title to The Rock at WrestleMania 39.
I can see that, yeah.
Like, I don't think he's going to lose the title then. Maybe it ends up being somebody cashing in Money in the Bank after he beats The Rock and he just barely wins. I don't know. I'm just throwing that in the atmosphere, so you could call me Nostradamus in a couple years.
Jay, remember, if it's Nia Jackson, Eva Marie, you're already going to be Nostradamus, so.
Right. That's coming. All right, so beyond that, SmackDown, we did have a fatal four-way for the Intercontinental title that saw Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Big E, and Apollo Crews in the match.
You said it wrong.
And, you're kind of sitting there thinking like all right, Commander Aziz is going to help in some way, help Apollo Crews to retain the title. But that ain't what we got. We ended up returning Aleister Black.
And it was funny, too, because Commander Aziz didn't get involved until like 24 minutes into the match. I clocked it because I was curious to see how long it was going to take for somebody to, get involved in a non-disqualifiable match. So, and the fact that he got taken out, too, rather quickly was just like, wow. I can't believe they did that. But,
right,
like you said, with the Aleister Black return, back to you, sir.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading what Gags the Clown is writing here. No, I have not watched Young Rock yet, but I've had people recommend that to me. I know it's on Peacock. I heard it's hilarious. Definitely Nakamura should probably head back to Japan, but I think he actually does enjoy the United States. It seems like he enjoys our water towers an awful lot, and I think he wants to prove to himself that he's just not a Japanese wrestler. And yeah, and eventually I think you will see Eva Marie's face. I don't know when, but at some point, Gags and Fun, I think you'll get there.
I don't.
But I cannot wait until that Eva Marie Nia Jax match where the brainless one will absolutely lose his mind.
Newport News will no longer be on the map.
Yeah.
I'm just going to explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, returning Aleister Black helped Apollo Crews retain the title, and I'm wondering if this means that we're getting Big E versus Aleister Black for a feud. Not the worst thing, but, I wouldn't like it for Big E because, if you're bringing Aleister Black back, you bring him back to win, right? You don't bring him back to job out to people, which means Big E, who I think should be one of the next few people in line to go against Roman Reigns, that would, in my view, kind of take him down a couple notches. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But if they do it right, like if this is their way of actually bringing in Zelina Vega to be a part of it with Aleister Black, and she distracts Big E and Black gets the victory, then yes, I could see a situation where he eats a pinfall, but still seems kind of strong because of the fact that it was a distraction that led to the loss.
Right. So we'll see how all that ends up panning out. All right. Beyond that, we did have Asuka on Monday Night Raw defeating Charlotte. If she would have defeated, or if Charlotte would have defeated Asuka, she would have gotten a Raw Women's title opportunity against Rhea Ripley in a solo match. This makes me wonder if Asuka beat Charlotte, doesn't that mean, based off of what we were told, does this mean Asuka gets another opportunity? I mean, personally, my love for Asuka.
Yeah.
But I think we should see somebody new in the title picture.
I agree. I think it's somebody else's turn to get a shot.
Whether it's Alexa with, her demonic character or what have you, but she needs to start getting physical in the ring with somebody, and she hasn't done that quite yet.
Yes.
So, all right. So that's most of Raw and SmackDown. We did have NXT this week where there were a couple of things of note, one of which we already mentioned of Alexander Wolff getting beaten down by Imperium after he lost to Killian Dane, and that was to write him off television because his contract will be up shortly. We had Toni Storm going against Zoe Stark, but she debuted a new finisher. I like it. I thought it looked pretty badass.
Yeah, I agree.
And she beat Zoe Stark, so good for that. We did have a little bit of a clip of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell at a spa, where apparently not only is Dexter Lumis a professional wrestler, he is also a masseuse. Who knew? Who knew? But, they're at the spa and, Candice and Indy are kind of talking over things, and Indy just going, yeah, you were right, Candice. That Dexter, he is a little weird. And then, at the end of the night, Indy finds out oh, Dexter was the one giving me a massage. Oh. So, yeah.
Such good shit.
Yeah. Gags, I have finished off the beer for the evening. I only had 2 of the Guinnesses left, and I had the Kona Big Wave. I refer to it as the Golden Wave, Big Wave Golden Ale, but I call it the Golden Wave. So yeah, so that's that. Also, Cameron Grimes, again, who was made fun of before he entered the arena by Jake Atlas, had a match against Cameron Grimes, but the $1 Million Man came out, distracted Cameron Grimes. Jake Atlas gets the W. So, good times. Then, in a steel cage match, we had Bronson Reed going against Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American title. And, this was a carryover for NXT Stand and Deliver, where Bronson Reed had to win a match on night 1 to face Gargano on night 2 for the North American title. But this time we have a new North American champion. Bronson Reed wins this match.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that Bronson Reed got the victory in this one. They've been doing a good thing with this whole thing with the Way, and that storyline was going the way it was. So for them to take the title off of Johnny.
I see what you did.
For them taking the title off of Johnny, I thought that was a little too soon. But, good for Bronson Reed. I actually am happy that he won the title. I'm just a little surprised it happened when it did.
Right. And they're hyping next week. We're getting a rematch between Finn Balor and Karrion Kross. And, hey, sign me up every time these two have a match against each other. I don't see Finn Balor winning this match, but let them wrestle the whole 2 hours.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Yeah. So we're getting that match coming up this week on NXT. So Mike Rainey saying, based off what he saw, he believes, it was on Twitter, that Sasha is teasing joining up with Alexa Bliss. Sasha's been off TV, and a lot of times when somebody's been off TV for a bit, they'll switch brands without really telling anybody, or they'll be like, oh, we've made a trade, and move Sasha from SmackDown over to Raw, or what have you. It could be a direction they go. I know specifically with Alexa, she has been through a bunch of injuries, and a lot of this past year and a half is like she does a lot on TV character-wise, but she does little to nothing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And she's had concussion, she's had other issues, and I think this is just a way to, like, if she teams or has Sasha be part of a collective with her, that would just be another way to help lengthen Alexa's in-ring career a bit longer.
Agreed.
So I could certainly see them doing that, and I'm looking forward to seeing, Alexa in the ring. She was never the greatest talent, but you know what? She does a passable job in the ring, but it's her character that puts her above all else. And I would say, to a lesser extent, a similar note, that was Carmella,
mm-hmm.
who, good character, but not always the greatest in the ring. But you know what? You get the people to boo you. That's all you need to do. So
It's all about getting a reaction.
Absolutely. So, all right. So that was basically NXT. AEW this week. I think the big thing was they had an official announcement that Pinnacle and the Inner Circle will be having a Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing, and if Inner Circle lose, they're going to disband. Allegedly, from the fall off the top of that cage, allegedly, Chris Jericho legit has, like, I think a fractured arm or a dislocated elbow, and the timetable, I think, for recovery was like 4 to 6 weeks. So, like, if he's in a Stadium Stampede match, like, they're gonna, that would be something they would record ahead, so they'll be able to kind of hide Chris Jericho, so to speak, if he is not really 100% ready to go for that. You know, obviously he'll be the main focus, him and MJF, at some point in the match to finish this feud off for once and for all. Because I do believe that this will be the end of the Inner Circle, because there's only 136 more factions in AEW that they need to have matches like this for to disband them, so they can make new factions.
The vicious cycle of
the
recycling of stables in AEW.
Yes. Hopefully there's not a lot of horse crap in that stable.
You think Tebow comes out?
I would love for him to come out. I mean, since the Khan family has signed him to a contract, it doesn't say that he's not an AEW employee. It just says he's an employee of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If they're in the stadium, if we even get a glimpse of the Tebow during this match, that's a victory in my view.
And that is a guaranteed good for the following podcast.
Yes. So that officially happened. It's clear that we're going to get Moxley and Kingston going against the Young Bucks for the tag team championships at Double or Nothing. I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of dudes who are brawlers going against the Young Bucks. You know, maybe have just a bit different of a match than we're used to seeing with them. So I got that. Hikaru Shida defeated Rebel in the match and got beat up by Britt Baker after. Again, setting up for their match at Double or Nothing. And the Stone Cold Lead Pipe lock of this year, Dr. Britt Baker winning the AEW Women's Championship because it's what needs to happen.
Yep, agreed.
And, you know, kind of everything else this week for AEW, you know, not huge things of note. You know, they set up Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page going against Sting and Darby Allin for Double or Nothing. Talking about how Scorpio Sky talked about he was a fan of Sting growing up, and this Sting is not the same one he grew up watching, and he's going to put Sting down, so to speak.
Old Yeller.
Right. Party's over, Grandpa. You know, Mike, I just don't think they're going to give Moxley and Kingston titles at this moment. Like you're saying, I just don't see it. I would love to see, you know, I'm okay occasionally with having, you know, put together tag teams become champions. Like, if back in the day, if the Mega Powers had won the tag team titles, I wouldn't have been upset. But, you know, with this right now, I do love the pairing of Moxley and Kingston and how they got from, like, you know, having the I Quit match, you know, to getting the respect for each other and now becoming a team. I enjoy how they've taken that long road to get there. So I wouldn't mind them winning the titles, but I just don't see them at this moment taking it off the Bucks, because I think with the Bucks, they want to finish the storyline with Brainless One's favorite, Kenny Omega, before all that happens. But I mean, since they kind of just refused on camera with Kenny Omega,
Mm-hmm.
that ain't breaking up anytime soon.
No, I agree with that.
So that about does it for wrestling for the week. So I think it's about time for the good, bad, and the brainless here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Cousin Jay, what is your good for this week?
You know what? I'm going with the triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Like, the Universal title match was fantastic, but the thing that's more my cup of tea is triple threat match. That thing was freaking awesome. I love when people get thrown through tables, power bomb through tables, thrown through Titantrons, all the crap that was in that match. I loved all of that. It was such good shit.
Yeah.
And that's my good for this week.
I'm a little surprised that you went good, because I thought you and I were going to be in agreement that the good for this week was the Velveteen Dream finally getting released from NXT.
All right, so that is your good for this week.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, and it's like it's a terrible thing what he did with the young kids and everything, and it's like they allegedly, and it's like it took too long to do finally do the release, but at the end of the day, what needed to happen happened, and I'm good with it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so ironically, my bad for this week is going to be the release of the Velveteen Dream, and it's specifically because of how long it took. I come back to the tinfoil hat theory belief that WWE felt they might get sued in some way, shape, or form by the Velveteen Dream if he got released. Whether, he tried to say, like, well, you didn't have 100% concrete proof that I did this,
Mhm.
and you got rid of me. I was unjustly fired. But based off of the dude who I think works on wardrobe or something else, saying like most unprofessional person I've ever worked with, I think waited until he took himself out, where people were so sick of working with him, got enough complaints about him, like, you know what, we're safe now to get rid of this guy without having any legal repercussions at all. Nobody is going to think bad of us. Nobody is going to think poorly on us. But they should have done the right principled thing from the start and gotten rid of this dude, and it took them far too long.
Oh, yeah. You pulled a sneaky on me there, Cousin Jay.
Yeah?
I like it. For me, for my bad, goes to, surprisingly, Aleister Black.
Okay.
Aleister Black's been out for a while, due to like some minor injuries and everything. And obviously what happened with his wife when she got fired in November didn't do him any favors. So obviously they're trying to do something where they repackage him, and they've been doing this whole dragon bit and everything. And everybody's like, oh, when's Aleister Black going to come back? Well, Aleister Black surprisingly made an appearance during the Fatal 4-Way match, like we had mentioned, where he attacked Big E. So it looks that they're going to lead that into the next rivalry when Aleister Black returns. And what ended up happening was he hit him with Black Mass. And I didn't catch it at first, but when they showed the replay in slow motion, when Aleister Black hit Big E with Black Mass, what did he do? He slapped his leg.
Slapjack.
The new rule in WWE is no more using your leg slaps to make your move sound more devastating. In his first appearance back, he used it on his Black Mass. So I'm sorry, that's why it's my bad for this week.
All right.
And you're brainless.
I'm just going straight with Velveteen Dream. You were given an extra opportunity after you allegedly doing what you did with little boys and little girls. You get another opportunity, and apparently everybody thinks that you're still the biggest tool to work with in the world. They don't want to work with you because you're unprofessional, and like, I don't know if it's because he has a high opinion of himself or if he's better than everybody. I don't know what it is, but like, I think most of the people out there watching could probably attest to this. You know what? Sometimes we work at places and work with people that we don't necessarily like, but what do? We show up to work every day and we're freaking professional.
Yep. Get
the freaking job done and do it well.
Yep.
And apparently that's not what he did. And as much as I was a fan of the character and thought he was actually a pretty good performer there, it's like, good luck with life. I hope you find God, Patrick Clark. And I hope you turn from the ways that you've been doing, and I hope you repent from those ways, and I hope you go forward and figure yourself out, because right now you're going to I put this on our Facebook page. I'm like, when is Dark Side of the Ring going to come out about the Velveteen Dream?
Season.
Usually it'll take a few years before people will talk about things like this. But it's going to be an episode someday. If Dark Side of the Ring is still airing in like 5 to 10 years, Patrick Clark has just given it more ammunition to keep going.
Yep.
And it's just sad. Like I said, I hope he gets his shit together. I hope he fixes himself. Comes down to the Lord our Savior and says, you know what? I effed up. I need to do better. Please show me the way. So, Velveteen Dream gets my brainless for the week.
Wow.
He's my bad and my brainless.
That doesn't happen very often, Jay, where the bad and the brainless tag team and
yeah.
one. But My brainless for this week is the zombie match. That's why I'm like surprised that wasn't your brainless.
I mean, it definitely. It was the leader in the clubhouse, and it is among the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Booking wise.
In all of WWE, WCW, AWA, WCCW, USWA, Stampede Wrestling, Top Rope Promotions.
Don't do it.
Hampton Roads
No,
Championship Wrestling. Like I could keep going on for years and years and years and years talking about some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in professional wrestling. And I mean, it really did. Like you now have reached the Mount Rushmore. I mean, instant classic shit.
It's such good shit, pal.
Instant classic. So, yeah. I understand, but you know, the darkness of the possible things that the Velveteen Dream did because it happened in real life versus, you know, the cartoon world sometimes of professional wrestling. That was why it superseded it. If we're just talking strictly professional wrestling, yeah.
The zombie match. Yeah?
But by a mile.
We're talking Secretariat at the Belmont Stakes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah?
Not even close. Yeah.
I guess that's it then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Wait. There is one more thing.
What's that, brainless one?
Oh, can I point at it? Yes, I can. I can actually point.
You can point at it.
That's because today, May 22nd, 2021, at 2009 days, Curtis Axel is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
All right. And with that, that is the end of episode 222 of the F and Marks podcast, done remotely.
Not too terribly bad.
Yeah. Once we figured it out, it's like, hey, you know, I know with your schedule coming up and my schedule coming up, this might happen a couple more times. So
Yeah, I did not.
So be it.
Yeah.
But now we figured this shit out.
It's such good shit, pal.
Yeah.
So for episode 222 of the F and Marks podcast,
I'm Jay.
and I am, was, and always will be the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
I'll catch you later. All right. The feed's on you, so you got to finish this bad Larry off.
Yeah?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
See you, everybody. Have a good week.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend.